there are two completely different items here, but two things that I'm really interested in and have done was Kuba Stools and quilting, which is on that Tina box. So, so we'll just start in with the Kuba Stool one. And as a reminder, if you're not sure where the word Kuba Stool comes from, Kuba or Kub means single log, and stool means chair. So you have the word Kuba Stool. And before we get into too much more, I want to give you just a little bit of background history on Kuba Stools. So the oldest one known right now dates from about anywhere from 1300 to 1571 that was found in Telemark. During the Middle Ages, the Kuba Stool was probably the only chair besides benches in a farmer's home. It was easy to move and the red was readily available. Most Kuba Stools were made in Buskerud and Telemark counties and the surrounding areas of Hallingdal, Setesdal, and Gudbrandsdal, places where they had plenty of trees large enough for good sized chairs. Kuba Stools became a symbol of nationalism, very much like the dollar horses that we see today in Sweden. I selected this Kuba Stool out of Vesterheim's many pieces because I thought perhaps that the idea of using the banding on my own Kuba Stool, which I end up didn't using, and I'll tell you about that later. So today we'll talk a little bit about the design elements of this chair. It's from around 1780 in Telemark. And the very first thing I think I notice when I look at it, besides the band, is that beautiful, elegant flare on the back rest of the chair. This looks like it would be a very comfortable chair. And that, if you are making a Koopa Stool right from the raw log, you have to establish that right away before it's shaped. I mean, with your chainsaw, which was what they use now, you would, build enough wood into and flare it right away. And you'll see in one of the other slides, the adult chair that I have, I did not have that option. So here we have a little bit the frontal view of the chair. Again, the common band is a decorative feature. The origin of the band is thought to have been a rope used to find and support chairs that were made of cane. And Leif Melgaard, Norwegian American, he was the mentor to Hans Sandem, believed that the idea for the chairs came from the Nile River region, where they were made from reeds held together with a belt of willow. Also, we find plated straw chairs in the Jutland region of Sweden. Okay, so let's go on to the next one. Okay, now you're looking here down at the seat from above. So the first thing I want you to notice, and it may be a little bit harder to see, those little white marks there, those are teeth. And as many of you know, because you work with the Norwegian folk arts, there was a lot of superstition among the early folks of Norway. One thought was that baby teeth could be pounded into the seat of the Kuba Stool to guard against tooth pain. They believed that the chair would absorb the pain and the other teeth would not become painful. So, and I know Vesterheim has a lot of Kuba Stools with the teeth in, and it's definitely worth a visit to see that. It's really cool. So, but back to the seat itself, there's basically two different styles of seats, and this one is the one where they carve out a cavity, and then they they put the seat set in. It's a set in seat. So it goes below the surface. And that's the way that I have mine, my adult one. And then I'm going to show you another one later. So, so if you want to go, Leah, to the next one. Okay, so this is the Koopa Stool I was given the blank of. It was already sawed out, so I really couldn't change it. So the back is straight, pretty much straight up and down. There was no, you know, flare on it, gradual curve on it. The band was all set and the seat was all set, so I had to pretty much leave it that way. But again, this was the set-in seat. Okay, so Leah, I want to go on the next one. See, this is the other one that I made, and this is a child size Kuba stool, but this is an example then of that other type of seat, where you make a channel in the back wall of the Kuba stool and you slide in a piece of wood. And I like the looks of that one better. It has a nice lip that overhangs the front part of the Kuba stool. I just like this better. But it too has its challenges, you know, to get that channel in the back. But I like the looks of this one. So, okay, I think we can go on now to the next one. Yeah, this is the close-up of the band around the Kuba stool that we have here. It's plain. And yet with the two different colors, it becomes more distinctive, and even greater are the little scalloping techniques around the borders. And this would have been done with a gouge. So I think that really helps to make it more distinctive and attractive. Okay, right, now this band is called like a broken band is what I've read about. Instead of going all the way around the Kuba stool at the same level, it's broken up by dropping down to another plane. And I think it's really nice because it breaks up a lot of space that way, maybe especially if you're not going to paint it. I really like that it just, your eye tracks a different way. And I really think that's nice. But bands, as you know from looking at all the different Kuba stools you've seen, bands can really be anywhere. So you maybe have seen some of them where they're only on the lower portion of the Kuba stool, or maybe more midsection. Yeah, so let's see, Leah, yep. And here, this one, some rose mulling was added, which really adds to it too. And I thought maybe Jennifer, you could tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, the rose mulling was put on a little bit later. It is in a telemark style, so at least it's keeping with that. But this particular Kuba stool came to us by way of a large collection, and so we don't actually have a lot of information about it. But I think that it speaks to how people might remodel things according to what might be, you know, the style of that particular time period or what they're looking for. So even though the chair probably dates earlier, we're you know, thinking about 1780. The date that's drawn on it or painted on it is much later, 1878. So we have a lot of pieces in the collection that have been sort of remodeled and renovated for the next generation. So this is just one of those.
It really adds to it, I think. It really does, and brings out some of those blues and things. So, Okay, Leah, the next one. So this is just a close-up of mine again. You can see that channel in the seat where the seat sets down. You can see the broken band on it. So to finish the story on this one, I got this blank like 20 years ago. And by the time now I started working on it, you know, during the COVID time, it was so hard. I can't tell you how hard it was. So I had great, you know, ideas of carving this with fancy carving and things like that. And that's why I looked at the blue and green one that we're seeing today. But oh man, there's no way after I got this far, there's no way I was going to try to carve the decorative part of it. So I have arranged for a rose muller to paint it. and she has agreed maybe this fall I can drop it off. So we'll see how that goes, and maybe sometime I can show you the final result. But yeah, I had just had it, so it was just way too much. And then if you want to go to the next one, Leah, that was just another close-up. Okay, yeah. And then there, I had to throw this one in to show you guys how much wood. And I'd already taken out some on this one. And I know on the left, you can see where my colored pencil was. And, I go a little bit farther, and then I go a little bit farther yet. And I think I need to thin it out a little more. And I ended up on the one on the right. And I'm sure I could have taken out more yet, but I was so sick of it by then. And just the angle to try to get into that cavity with your long-handled gouges or chisels, whatever you were going to use, and the mallet, you couldn't get the mallet in there, and being able to chop away at it, I finally got an electric power carver tool thing that I could put a 1-inch number 3 bit on the end. And if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have been able to do this. My arms and my shoulders and my neck, you just couldn't get it out of there. And it was hard as rock. So anyway, this is what I ended up with, and I'm just going to have to be satisfied with that. But it sure did lighten it up a lot with the weight. So that was the good part. So yeah, this is my child size one then. And this was fun because it wasn't such a huge thing to do. So one of the things I was just going to tell you about where I get my designs, I go to some of these design books. I've got Viking ones, Celtic ones, all kinds of design books, coloring book type things. And that's where I get my designs from. And this one happened to be rune stones from Sweden, which I really liked. And when I first got it all carved, and I don't know, do I have a back side of this one, Leah? Yeah, there. Okay. Wow. So when I got it first carved, I loved the natural wood. It was such a pretty piece of wood, basswood. And I carved it all, and I put Danish oil natural on it, and I thought it was beautiful. But when I stood back, you couldn't even tell there was a design there. And I thought, well, what good is it if there's no design? So what I did was I took burnt umber, and I mixed it with walnut oil, into a paste and put it in everything, and then wiped it as I went. And that's what really stained the clear spaces in between. But really, I was talking the other day with Leah and Jennifer, and, we thought, well, what's the difference between croating here and cold roasting? Well, with cold roasting, it's just one single line score. You don't really take out. You part the fibers, but you don't really remove. This one I used a V-tool, and I removed a good portion of wood. So I would say it would be more with the croating type of style. So, but yeah, so that one's done, and I like it. So, okay, so yes, this is the other piece. And, I've been teaching a class with croating, and I really enjoy it because as a non-rose mauler, I don't have a way or a technique of decorating some of the things that I carve. So this is a technique that I've really enjoyed. So first of all, I want to talk a little bit about the word croat or croating. The word croat is a verb meaning to decorate by carving, painting, or embroidery. And you might see in other books, they might refer to it as graffiti or incising. But I got the word croating from Ivan Falk's book, which is called Décor Portrait, or Decoration on Wood. And he has a whole chapter on croating. And I thought, well, why not call it by a nice specialized name? So that's how I got started with that. So a little bit of history about croating. It's an old decorative technique, and older than rose mauling. It was popular on the west coast of Norway and also Trøndelag, especially Selbu in Sør-Trøndelag, which is considered the center of the tradition, and it spread outward from there. But looking at this one and all the ones I've seen from Trøndelag, this is most certainly Trøndelag to me. The way it works, this technique, is Wooden items were painted in darker colors. And next, a knife tip or a gyfus, which what we would call a V-tool, is used to score the wood. And from looking at this piece, when I really zoomed in closely, I could see it was not a V-tool on this one. This one was a small gouge because it was the rounded bottoms in the channels. So one of the people that is really well known in history for this type of work was John Hansen Budalsplods, born in 1798 in Budal, Trøndelag. He signed and numbered his work. He did hundreds of pieces, but his work does not look at all like this. It's totally distinctive. So I'm sure this wasn't from him. So let's go on, Leah, to the next one. So there are two types of quilting, because when you say this type, I'm doing quilting, they might think that you're doing this type of work, which is a wall decoration. It's used mostly in Western Norway. It could be called quilting or kritting. You use chalk, lime, or crushed brick mixed with water or sour milk. And it's usually done in geometric designs, as you see here. This was Johild Malin's class. I was in that class. It was really fun to do that. They did this after the walls had been freshly washed a few times a year, like Christmas or weddings or things like that. Jennifer, maybe you can add to this.
Well, not a whole lot, but if you look at, I think one of those panels is mine. I actually got to do some painting.
Oh, good.
No, it was great. And I think, Rebecca, you probably remember that you put the paint on and it doesn't look like anything. And then it's like, poof, then it starts to come out. But yeah, so meant for good luck, protection. There's a lot of different symbols incorporated into this on the wall.
That's right. It was fun to do, and I still have my board that I have not done on this, but okay, if this COVID goes on, I'll get it at it. So, okay, so let's go on, Leah. Okay, so here again, this is just another angle, and this would be considered a tina, and sometimes they call them laup. L-A-U-P in certain parts of Norway, and it's bent wood constructed. The Norwegian word for this would be sviping. If you have a book by Johan Hopstead, he was big into this, and he taught at Vesterheim years and years ago, meaning that they take thin boards, soak them, and wrap them around a form to dry. And Dick Edstead, who's with us today, taught me how to do this in a class, and he's been a mentor to me. So anyway, if you have specific questions, you ask Dick. So the one thing that was a little different in this one, and maybe Dick can talk about it later, is that a lot of the joints and the overlapping flat parts were pegged, is what I understand, and not laced, like a lot of them are laced. So sometime I really want to look at that in person close up. Okay, Leah, let's go on. Okay, here's from the top, and I told Leah and Jennifer, I think their Vesterheim is very lucky to have this piece. In all the pieces I have seen and looked on online, I've not seen a stack of 3. So that's great that we have that at the museum. I've seen a lot of them that are 2 of them, which are called tvilling tina, which is twin tina. They could either be side by side or they could be one on top of another, but I've not seen a word that has multiple stacks. So if anybody should come across it, I'd love to know what that word is. So, and if you want to check out more examples of these tinas or laups, you can go to the Digital Museum. And I'd be glad to send you the link if you'd like, and put in either tina or laup, L-A-U-P. And then you'll see all kinds of nice examples, so from all over Norway. So let's go on to the next one. Okay, so I just threw in a couple of mine that I've done. I've got a lot of pieces, but I tried to narrow it down. So this is a loom that was made by Mike Lusk. And so this was one of my first projects doing quilting. And I did kind of a medium Norwegian blue. And again, I went to my books on Viking designs, Celtic designs, and just picked the ones I like. I sometimes make photocopies of those pages, and then I just tape them on just to see how it lays, if it fits the space I have. And then if it's too small or too big, I either enlarge it or reduce it. But then sometimes I fill in the space with other little like lines or borders, things like that. Okay, Leah, let's go on to the last one. Okay, and then this one is another piece by Mike Lusk. I just saw it rose mold one time at Vesterheim. It was so cute. And I think it's a yarn box because it has 4 holes at the top and the 2 lids are hinged to flip up with a handle across it. And this time I decided to go with more of a Swedish flair just because I like that shade of blue. And I got it from a book that I got at Vesterheim. It was called Nordic Designs Coloring Book. And you'll find a lot of things in coloring books too. So this was fun. It was a ton of work. I realized later that I will never do those little flowers again that go up and down on that end piece. They're just too small and those curves are too hard. So it's best to stick with straight lines. But anyway, yeah, I think that's what I have.